Hello, welcome. Thank you for being here today. We're going to start with a few opening prayers. The link to the opening prayers is in the description for the video. And we will say these in Tibetan. You're free to say them along in English if you're more comfortable that way. We'll say the first prayer 3 times, and the next prayer is 1 time each. Om Organ yogi nom jan sam pemage sa dombola yatsen chogi ngorupe pema jone jesurak kordu kandro mangpo kor ketki jesudak druki jinji lopchi shek so guru pema seri home. Organ yogi nom jansam pemage sa dompola yatsen chogi ngodrupne pema jongne jesurak kordu kandro mangpo kor ketki jesudak druki jinji lopchi shek so Guru Pema Siddhi Hum. Organ yogi nom jansam pema ge sa dompola yatsen chogi ngodrupne pema jongne jesurak kordu kandro mangpo kor ketki jesudak druki jinji lopchi shek so guru pema siddhi hum. All right, and continuing on. Kunzan dosem garab shiri sing pema gara jipani shunga sozo namna tatengatsa so kate lama namna sovadem. Ogmin juki hinki podang na dosum sange kungi ngawonye rangsem chuku ngonson tonset pe tawe lama namna sovadem. Sashi pochu chujing mito tram re ramling jini de kempadi sange zingdu mikte polwai droku namda shingla chok pashok tram guru ratna mandala putsa mega samudra saparana samaya hum. Samchen namki sampadang loyi jejak jitawar cheton tumon tepahi chuki korlo kordu so. Venerable teachers, whose compassion is infinite and unconditional, I prostrate myself before you all. May the Buddhas and the teachers bless me that I may explain definitively as I remember them. Wonderfully profound, clear, and easy to understand. Hearing words of my perfect teacher. All right, so let's take a moment to connect with our compassionate intention for attending this class today. In just a moment, we'll start our meditation, but first, let's make sure to just center in our compassionate intention that we are here to learn how to be of benefit to all sentient beings. All right, and with that compassionate intention stable in our hearts, we will then do a brief meditation to stabilize our minds. Meditation is the natural state of mind when it's relaxed, stable, and open. We're not creating anything when we meditate. We're actually experiencing our mind in a more natural way. And meditating in this way of stabilizing the mind, we'll be doing this by focusing our mind on our breath. And meditating in this way trains our mind to be calm and relaxed, yet also alert and wakeful. And the point of this meditation is to create space in your mind. When we have space in our minds, we have more ability to balance our emotions, where we have time between action and reaction. And having this space in the mind is the first step in the development of bodhicitta, which is the compassionate wish to free all sentient beings from suffering. With that space in the mind, we have space for compassion and wisdom to arise. We're not just stuck in our habitual reactions of, kind of like a 10-car pileup on the highway or something. That's kind of our normal state of being, is just slamming on the brakes before we speed into something, rear end something. Or maybe we don't even put on the brakes. We just smack right into problem after problem and react to it. But with space in our minds, we have the time and space to be able to react to things in ways that align with our values. And we have an opportunity for wisdom and compassion to come in and give us a better idea than our habits do. So we can act off of wisdom and compassion instead of just habitual impulses. So take a comfortable seat, either in a chair or cross-legged on the floor like I am, and place your hands in your lap, gently relaxed. You can set your hands on your knees, or you can put your right hand in your left hand with the thumbs touching, and place your hands in your lap with your thumbs just below your navel. Make sure your spine is straight. Your shoulders are open and relaxed. Your eyes are going to stay open, looking gently down. You can follow the line of your nose and find a place to rest your eyes in front of you. And then lastly, place the tip of your tongue right behind your front teeth. Allow yourself to breathe naturally at your normal pace. Just relax and breathe how you normally do. Don't try to control your breathing at all. Just breathe naturally and put the most gossamer thin attention on the surface of your breath. It's like taking your pulse. You don't put any pressure on it, just observe it. Your attention is like a feather, gently riding on the surface of your breath. And if thoughts come up, just let them go. They're like bubbles popping on the surface of a pond. You can just let them pop. You don't have to look to see what they are. They just pop. Your meditation is not lost by hearing your thoughts, but by following them down the road. So whenever you find yourself following a thought, just drop it and return to your breath. We'll just return to our breath again and again and again, to that gossamer thin, feather-like attention on the surface of your breath. I'll just set a timer for 5 minutes. Just breathe naturally. Put the most gossamer thin attention on the surface of your breath. So in the last class, we talked about how it takes merit to be happy. We have to create the karma of happiness in order to experience happiness ourselves. And the way that we do that is by creating merit. Dzongsa Jamyang Khyentse Rinpoche defines merit as ability. All the abilities, in fact, that make it possible for us to hear, contemplate, meditate on, and practice the Dharma, including the ability to feel curious. Without merit, we will not be able to recognize how special the Dharma is. Without merit, one will not be able to approach the path of Dharma and make progress on it. And without merit, one will not even have the causes to continue living. It's said that when the storehouse of one's merit in this life is depleted, then death occurs. So we definitely want merit. And how do we get it? Dzongsa Jamyang Khyentse Rinpoche says, merit is generated by the actions or conditions that quickly bring us closer to the truth. We can accumulate merit by engaging in proper virtuous conduct, such as being kind to others, developing a stable mind, studying the Dharma, teaching Dharma to others if one is qualified to do so, being generous to others, treating others with respect, treating the Dharma with respect, meditating, praying, etc. When we do the opposite, when we steal, speak harshly, act selfishly, or harm others, those non-virtuous actions degenerate our storehouse of merit and fill it up with negative karma. But creating merit is different than just creating good karma. Whether an action accumulates merit or just run-of-the-mill good karma is determined by whether or not that action is undertaken with a dualistic view. So we have to remain constantly aware, or at least remind ourselves over and over and over again, that everything we do is illusory. Everything that we see, do, or think is an interpretation created by our mind. Both good and bad karma perpetuate the illusion of samsara. Samsara is the cycle of death and rebirth. It is a cycle that sentient beings are trapped in lifetime after lifetime after lifetime for innumerable, inconceivable numbers of lifetimes. And samsara encompasses the 6 realms of existence. There's actually more than 6. There's like innumerable realms, but we simplify it by calling it the 6 realms. We've divvying them up into 6 basic categories. So those 6 realms of existence, sentient beings just get stuck spinning through those realms based on their positive and negative actions by the karma they've created. They cycle through all of those realms of existence. So both good and bad karma perpetuate the illusion of samsara, of cyclic existence. If you create lots of good karma in this life, you may be born in the God realm, where you would live pleasantly, surrounded by beauty and riches. And that sounds lovely, isn't it? You could just have, gorgeous flowers and delicious food and lots of gold jewelry and just live in some cloud palace just with no hardship whatsoever. It would be great. Except that you live there for billions of years while constantly retreating further and further from the truth. So even though your existence is extremely pleasant, the entire time you're there, you are retreating from the truth. And once that good karma is used up, you'll have an awful death and drop to the lower realms, since that's the karma that you'll have remaining. And there you will experience tremendous suffering. And you won't be any further along in your quest to leave samsara and find ultimate happiness. You will have wasted quite a lot of time just enjoying the pleasantness of the God realm without getting really anything from it. You basically use up all your money, kind of. You use up all of your good karma there, and then you run out of money and you're kicked out. That's in a nutshell. So then you fall to the lower realms. And in the lower realms, you'll suffer for billions of years until you've used up that particular karma. And it could be a very, very long time before you ever have the opportunity to encounter the truth again. And that's why it's so important that we don't just engage in good karma, in being nice, in acting like a nice person and doing things in a superficial way to make us seem like we're a nice person. Being a nice person is not really worth anything. Instead, we should use this precious opportunity that we have, this human life where we have encountered the Dharma. We have to use this opportunity to engage in the Dharma and create a strong habit in our minds of always recognizing illusion and seeking out the truth of the Dharma. Otherwise, we remain within the illusion of the 6 realms of existence, and we remain trapped there, experiencing all sorts of different sufferings, depending on the causes that we've created, with no way to get out until we have another lifetime where we will connect with the Dharma. But we don't know when or if that other lifetime, that other opportunity to connect with the Dharma, we don't know if that will ever occur. We have no guarantee. We don't know how much merit we have. We don't know how long this opportunity that we currently have will last. So we have to take advantage of it. We must take the teachings on cause and effect to heart, understanding that our present circumstances, our death, our after-death experience, and our future rebirth are determined by the causes, conditions, intentions, and actions that we have gathered throughout many lifetimes. At the same time, our present circumstances, all of the 6 realms, and even heaven and hell are nothing more than states of mind. They're all an illusion. So when people hear that hell is a state of mind, they sometimes think, oh, then there's nothing to be afraid of. It's not that bad. It's just metaphorical. But consider how much a paper cut or a wasp sting or a root canal hurts, despite the fact that your present existence is only a projection of your mind. Just because something is a projection of your mind doesn't mean that you're not going to experience that suffering in a very, very real way. It will feel very real to you because you believe in the illusion. And it's not as simple as just clicking your heels 3 times to wake up from it. We have to remind ourselves again and again and again that what we are experiencing is a projection of our mind. Not recognizing the illusory nature of reality, we experience horrible pain and suffering. So when we do kind things while believing in the illusion, we create good karma, which creates pleasant circumstances within the illusion of samsara. And when we recognize the illusion and we do kind things, understanding our actions to be illusory, ourselves to be illusory, the recipient of our actions to be illusory, when we remember that and we do kind things, then we are able to create merit. As long as we have a compassionate intention. And we also need to dedicate the merit that we create for the benefit of all beings, not just keep it all to ourselves. So that's a quick little recap of last class. The last class focused on how accumulating merit leads to happiness. And in this class, I'd like to focus more on the non-virtuous habits that undermine our path to happiness. These non-virtuous habits undermine the merit that we create and create circumstances in which it is even more difficult to create merit. And I wanted to talk about these because I think sometimes it can be very subtle, the way that these results manifest in our lives, in the ways that we engage in non-virtuous actions. I think those can be more subtle than we sometimes want to think. And I wanted to just open up the conversation on the non-virtuous habits that we engage in a lot, to the point that we don't recognize that they're non-virtuous habits, or we don't recognize the way that the non-virtuous habits in the past have are currently preventing us from engaging in the Dharma. So first, let's talk a little bit about karma. What makes a human birth precious is having freedom and leisure to practice the Dharma. If we don't have freedom and leisure to practice, we have an ordinary human birth, and we won't be able to make much use of this life. The actions we engage in will be ordinary, and we'll have ordinary results that will perpetuate our continual rotation through the 6 realms of samsara. And if we create negative causes, we will experience more difficult circumstances. We will be more constrained by our suffering, and it will be more difficult to practice. Good karma can do the same thing, making it difficult to practice, but it will be our pleasure and contentment that prevent us from practicing. Like when someone is born into the God realms and they have so much pleasure and contentment, they've just got the riches, and they've got, just all of the delicious food, and everything's beautiful, and they don't have to think about suffering. They don't have any motivation to practice because their present life is just fine. So they have no motivation to practice, even though there's no real obstacle other than their own disinterest preventing them from practice. They actually are quite powerful and have, they have everything they could possibly ask for, except an interest to practice the Dharma. So in that case, despite their appearance of wealth, they're actually quite poor because they have no interest in the Dharma. So in this class, I'll mostly be oversimplifying good and bad karma. So I want to share this important caveat from Dzongtsar Jamyang Khyentse Rinpoche, who says, it is far too simplistic to stereotype cause and effect by saying that bad actions always bring about bad experiences and good actions always bring about good experiences. But this is the mistake we often make. It is extremely difficult to judge whether or not an action or situation is good or bad, because the quality of the karma created depends entirely on the creator's motivation. The karmic consequence of any given action will therefore vary from person to person. How can we be sure that we have the right motivation? We may think our intentions are good, but it is so easy for us to kid ourselves. Too often, so-called right motivation is rooted in selfishness. And without being sure of our motivation, how can we be sure of the effects our karma will bring? There is no fixed result for each individual karmic cause. For example, we usually imagine that having a lot of money and being beautiful are good things, but one look at popular media shows us that the rich and beautiful are not necessarily happy. So the configurations of good and bad karma cannot be stereotyped, and neither can its effects. So something to consider as we talk about good and bad karma in a more simplistic way. That's the caveat, is that there is no actual prescribed, 100% prescribed result for any action. It's going to depend on your particular circumstances and what you would perceive as pleasant or unpleasant. Also, the mechanism of karma is more complex than most people imagine. We usually just kind of think of karma as good karma, bad karma, in kind of a tit for tat way. You did this, and so that's going to happen exactly to you. You stepped on a bug, so someday a big foot's going to come out of the sky and step on you. Not necessarily. It's not necessarily going to look like that. It's actually way more complex, and you're probably going to suffer more than once for stepping on that bug. The full ripening of a karmic act involves 4 steps. So for instance, let's use killing as an example. The first step involves identifying the object, the being that you want to kill. For instance, a wasp. So you identify the wasp. And then the second step, you formulate the intention to kill. And you say, this wasp must die. And then the third step is the murderous action, squashing the wasp. And then the fourth step is the consequence, the death of the wasp. And the process works the same way if the action is virtuous. So let's say you identify the object who's the being that you wish to benefit. Maybe it's a stray dog that you've picked up. And so then you formulate your intention. You decide to help this dog. And then you take the actual action of helping the dog, giving him water, calling his owner, or whatever. And then the fourth is the result, that the dog is picked up by his owner and is safe and free from immediate harm. If you identify an enemy and have the intention to kill him, and you try to kill him, but you fail. So like, let's say with the wasp again, let's say you see the wasp, you're like, that wasp has to die, and you want to kill the wasp, but you fail. You throw your shoe at him and you miss. So 3 of the 4 steps are involved. That does not have the same effect. So if you accidentally step on a bug, you skip the first 2 steps. You didn't identify the object or formulate an intention. It was accidental. You accidentally stepped on a bug. But you did actually squash the bug, and it did result in death. So the repercussions in those cases where not all 4 boxes are checked, those are much less severe than the repercussions of actions that involve the completion of all 4 steps. Any act that includes all 4 steps produces a fully ripened result. So for example, in the case of a murder that was motivated by anger or desire, the fully ripened result would be rebirth in a hell realm. And then after this result, there are experiences similar to the cause, in which the murderer might spend 500 lifetimes as a human with a very short lifespan. So because you had shortened life in the past, then you experience this result that is similar, having a shortened lifespan yourself. And in each of those lives, perhaps you are killed in ways similar to the way that you had killed previously. And then there are the experience of actions similar to the cause, in which the momentum of the murderer's karma manifests as a behavioral pattern, similar to those in his past lives. So he might be reborn as a child who bullies and abuses other kids, or as a child who tortures small animals. And then there is the conditioning result, in which the murderer is reborn in an environment such as a place with extremely harsh conditions that reflects the mental poison, the anger or desire that motivated his initial harmful action. So one harmful action creates this, it unfolds this tapestry of suffering that you'll experience for an incredibly long time. We're talking multiple lifetimes of experiences influenced by one single negative action. And for instance, with this conditioning result, for instance, being born in a place where you have extremely harsh conditions, those can be also, like if you're born in conditions where you don't have the opportunity to encounter the Dharma, then you would have no ability to practice the Dharma. If you are born in a harsh condition, such as, let's say you are born in poverty, and even though you've heard of the Dharma, you cannot afford to travel to seek out teachings. You can't afford any books. You can't afford to make offerings. You can't afford, you don't have anything with which to even move towards the Dharma because you lack the resources. There are ways that our actions determine the subtle the environments that we find ourselves in, and the subtle ways in which they prevent us from engaging in Dharma practice. And the habits that come along with those negative actions too, for instance, being born and just having a habit of bullying and abusing others. And with that habit, you are going to create more and more negative habits that will then further perpetuate these causes and further perpetuate your experience of being in an environment where harm is being done, where things are harsh and inhospitable, where you are you have unpleasant experiences and projections. You're never able to feel contented. And these experiences can be quite subtle. If we go through, if you think of the 6 realms of existence, we normally read about the 6 realms of existence in ways that are very concrete. We say, over there is the hell realm, and it's like this. And over there is a hungry ghost realm, and it's like this. And although beings truly do experience the hell realm or the hungry ghost realm or the animal realm in its full entirety as depicted in the text, where it truly is a hell realm of fire and boiling lava and horrific beasts that torture them, and that is their experience. We can also see elements of those realms in the experiences of ourselves and of people we know. We can see degrees of that experience. For instance, well, let's see. Let's actually just go through the realm. So, for instance, beings reborn in hell have no opportunity to practice the Dharma because they're constantly tormented by intense heat or cold. It's easy to imagine how that would be difficult to practice the Dharma if you are being burned alive over and over for countless aeons. That would be extremely difficult to meditate or pray or focus your mind in any way. But a more subtle experience of that could be continually finding yourself, in situations where you are caught in angry issues with people, in disagreements, and people are harsh or insensitive. You find yourself in harsh environments. You may have a subtle experience of heat or cold within the realm of a human experience, not necessarily being burned alive, but perhaps you live in places where there is just extreme heat and drought, or extreme cold, and you're not able to protect yourself from the elements. You can see these 2 degrees within the human world. You can see that. Hungry ghosts, for instance, they have no opportunity to practice the Dharma because of the suffering they experience from hunger and thirst. Hungry ghosts are beings who they have enormous bellies, and they cannot fill their bellies because their throats are as small as a little straw. And so they can't get anything down their throats, not even just a drop of water. And yet their bellies are huge and insatiable. So they can never satisfy their desire. So think of the humans that you know who can never satisfy their desire. Think of the degree to which you can see this happen in the human world. For instance, alcoholics or drug addicts who are constantly chasing a pleasure that they will never be able to satisfy that itch. They will never satisfy that itch, no matter how much they chase the next drink or the next drug. They cannot satisfy that itch. And because they are so wrapped up in in satisfying that desire, they don't have the opportunity to practice the Dharma. They don't have the mental space to practice the Dharma because they're so hooked on getting the next fix. So there's no room in their minds to think about what would actually bring true happiness. And the more that they perpetuate seeking out something for their own personal satisfaction, the more they do that, the more they dig into that habit, creating a habit of, like of greed or of, only thinking of themselves, of selfishness. And also by engaging with that example with like drinking or drugs, also the habit they're engaging in is one of, forcing their mind to one of ignorant stupor. So then they are also then engaging in ignorance. They are purposefully creating an ignorant experience. And so they're perpetuating those causes as well, which ignorance is like not seeing the truth. They're going in the opposite direction. They are not seeking out the truth of the Dharma. They are seeking to remain in an illusion, continually wanting to pull the wool over their eyes and just create a comfortable experience within this illusion that is temporary and will not bring them ultimate happiness. So animals have no opportunity to practice the Dharma because they undergo slavery and suffer from the attacks of other animals. We can see that. We can readily see that when we look at the animal world. That's the one other realm that we can perceive with our own eyes, the human and animal realms. Applying that to our own experience, to the human realm, again, to look at things in degrees of experiences. If if someone is in an economic circumstance in which they find themselves needing to be, or they find themselves enslaved to another or indebted to another in a way where they don't have freedom to pursue the Dharma, that is a similar experience. They still, that they're in a human birth where they, in theory, could practice the Dharma, but they can't because they perhaps can't have to work all night and all day, and they cannot ever take any time off to learn the Dharma. Or they are so ignorant because of the causes they've created in the past to kind of cloud their mind, that they're so ignorant that even though they are in a human rebirth, they don't have the faculties to engage with the Dharma. So you can see these things to degrees in our human experience. The long-lived gods have no opportunity to practice the Dharma because they spend their time in a state of mental blankness. And there are other long-lived gods who have no opportunity to practice the Dharma because they're just obsessed with their own pleasure. And they don't have any reason to think about suffering or think about leaving their state of pleasure for an ultimate happiness of liberation. We can see this looking at the rich and powerful of the human world. We can see people who are so monstrously rich. They don't even have to, they don't have to think about suffering. They still experience suffering. They're still not, they're still probably not that happy in their life. They still, get their, someone gets their coffee order wrong, or they don't like how some shirt fits, or the air conditioning's too cold or whatever. They have their minor sufferings. And of course, they could still suffer from health issues or physical pain. Those can still happen whether you're rich or famous or not. But we can see, looking at people who have everything they want, they have no need to engage spiritually. They don't see the purpose for it because they can just buy whatever will make them happy. They can just get more staff, or buy a bigger house, or they can easily fall under the belief that they will be able to perpetuate these positive circumstances forever, not recognizing the impermanence of them. So I wanted to talk some about the subtleness of this, of how we can experience these sufferings in degrees within our own lives, because I think there is a tendency when people hear the teachings on karma and of the six realms to say, or of positive and negative karma, to say, to think in extremes, to think of really like, well, I don't accumulate that bad of karma. I'm not like Jeffrey Dahmer or Hitler or anything. I'm not a murderer. I'm not doing anything that bad. I'm just, I'm a normal person. I'm generally well-intentioned, and, I've got this, I'm taking advantage of my opportunities. I'm listening to this talk right now. I pray sometimes, and not really kind of using and taking something to an extreme to excuse themselves from seeing themselves in the teaching. When we talk about, accumulating negative karma by killing and things like that, we're not just talking about being a murderer, being Jeffrey Dahmer. We kill things all the time. We kill beings when we drive our cars, when we walk outside, and we hire an exterminator to deal with the roach problem or whatever. If you eat meat, someone killed it. Maybe you didn't kill it specifically, but someone killed it and you're benefiting from that. The fact that we are safe in our homes, without other countries attacking us, well, that's because we are benefiting from the fact that other people are out there fighting wars on our behalf in other countries. We benefit from the actions of the United States military, for instance. That's, you may not have signed up for the military, but your taxes are going towards it. So you're not exempt from, all of these negative actions that support your lifestyle and that you benefit from and that bring you pleasure and security. You're not separate from them just because you yourself didn't personally do that. You're still benefiting from those negative actions. The thing I want to talk the most about was this, that people born in what are called barbarian lands have no opportunity to practice the Dharma because the doctrine of the Buddha is unknown in such places. So barbarian lands, America counts as a barbarian land. America would be one. The doctrine of the Buddha is just starting to be known in America, but it has just started to take root, and it is not it's not dominant in the cultural consciousness. Our culture here is very much not in accordance with the Dharma. A barbarian land refers to, for instance, or barbarians refer to those who consider harming others an act of faith, or who see taking life as good. Barbarians excel at harmful activities such as hunting or killing insects. And you can see, if you look at American culture, we glorify barbarianism. We glorify hunting. We glorify war. These are our heroes. These people who have gone and killed are our heroes because they're military heroes. And again, we benefit. We have our safety and security. We are personally benefiting from their actions. So we can't just draw some moral line in the sand and say, well, they're bad. And I'm not bad because I didn't sign up for the military. Each of us still created the causes to be in a situation in which we are paying taxes for someone to go kill on our behalf. So we still wound up mired in that system of killing. And we're creating causes through that. And you still have to pay your taxes. You can't, You can't just not pay your taxes. We don't want to think of ourselves as barbarians. We don't want to think of America as a barbarian land. We want to think of ourselves as nice people, and we want to think of, our neighbors as nice people, and they might be nice people. And you can be a nice person and still have a lot of negative habits that need to be uprooted, because the effects of those are going to continue to chain you to samsara and to obstruct your view of the truth and to obstruct your path of the Dharma. They will create obstacles on your path, these negative habits. So in thinking of barbarians, barbarian lands, like I saw this video on TikTok the other day. There was this video on TikTok. This woman had ordered delivery, and the video showed her delivery order, and it said in the delivery notes, hey, there's this giant spider in the area around my front door. There's this giant spider there. It's been there all day. I can't go out my front door because there's this massive spider and I'm terrified of it. And, can you kill the spider? So then the video switches to being the video from the doorbell, the video doorbell. And it shows the delivery guy approaching, and he drops the package and he takes off his shoe and he smashes the spider. And the woman's grateful. And this video had like 1 million views, and people were just commenting like, yeah, this guy's a hero. See, we need more good people like this in the world. This is what it means, to look out for each other. We've all got to look out for each other. We need more kind people like this. And just so many comments just calling this guy a hero for killing a spider. And if that isn't a barbarian land, then I don't know what is. That is the definition of it. We are in a land where we hold up people who kill as heroes, and we see taking life as a good thing, as long as it's an undesirable life form. Then if we all agree that is an undesirable being, then absolutely kill it. That's what we think here in this barbarian land. I think, I think it's important to recognize that and to recognize these habits in our culture and in our communities, because it's easy to read these teachings and say, oh, a barbarian land. Well, I wouldn't call my family barbarians, so I wouldn't call my community barbarians. Like, we're not, I don't know, like Huns or something. Like, you think of like what a barbarian is, and you probably think of something from like hundreds of years ago, like Attila the Hun or something. And it's, but these are habits that are counter to the Buddhist teachings. We live in a culture that glorifies violence, that glorifies killing, and glorifies choosing some beings as worthy of living and others as not. So when we have the merit to engage in the Dharma, we also hopefully have the merit to have a strong community who will support us in the practice of the Dharma. Who will continue to reflect back to us when we are following the Buddha's teachings and when we're not. Who will help guide our thinking and actions so that we can, follow the straight and narrow. It will help support us in that. One of the very subtle ways that people start leaving the path, when their merit starts slipping away, maybe they've accumulated some negative causes, and or they've just used up their merit and their merit's gone. one of the ways you might see that manifest is in no longer having those supports, not having people around you who can support you in staying on the path. You may have friends who are barbarians and who encourage you to go fishing or just kill that spider, or here's a good method for drowning ants or whatever. It can be very subtle the way that, who we hang out with, the way that their actions and their values will influence us. And it's one of the reasons why, the teachings are very specific about not socializing with people with wrong views. Because when someone believes that killing is good, or, the Dharma is bad, helping others is bad, then they will influence you over time, unless you are much, much stronger in your convictions. They will influence you over time. And it's that normalization of violence. It's the normalization of not caring, or the normalization of ordinary thinking. So, another circumstance you can be born into is a community, like being born as a Tritika or a nihilist, or, someone with similar wrong views. If you're born with wrong views, such as nihilism, and especially if you are in a community that believes that, then you have no opportunity to practice the Dharma, because your mind will be so influenced by those mistaken beliefs. And wrong views can be very subtle also. We really have to watch out for those, especially in the spiritual friends that we make on the path. Because there are a lot of nihilists that hang out in Dharma communities. There are a lot of nihilists that practice meditation. And you might think that your meditation practice is the same, but then you get to talking and it's not. And if we don't recognize when people are espousing nihilist beliefs or are encouraging us to think in a nihilistic way, for instance, such as believing that, that negative actions don't have negative results, that it's okay to do this. It's okay to, how about this? Like, it's okay to download songs for free on Napster in the 90s. That's perfectly okay. No one's getting harmed by that. That's still stealing. That's still stealing. And we see people, we may have friends who are offended when we don't agree with their wrong views. For instance, if someone's like, no, it's fine to order lobster. It's fine for them. Like, it's, like when you say, like, I don't want to order lobster because I don't want them to kill the lobster because I ordered it. I don't want to cause the death of a lobster. I don't want to do that. And so you're like, no, I want to order lobster. I'm just gonna, whatever. You'll order something else. Your friend might be like, no, it's not a bad thing to order lobster. Lobsters don't feel pain. That's not a bad thing, because they don't want to look at their own actions as a bad thing. So they're going to convince you that this thing is perfectly fine. It's not a bad thing to kill spiders. No, that's fine. I've been doing this all the time. Nothing bad has ever happened to me. People will encourage you to accept the normalization of violence, the normalization of ordinary thinking, normalization of stealing, of lying, of talking badly about people and gossiping. Everyone does it. We have to be very careful of these influences. If we're not, we will find ourselves in situations where we have more bad influences and less good influences. To the extent that even we can be born during a dark kalpa. A dark kalpa is a period of time in which the Buddha has not yet appeared and no teachings have been given. And so there's nothing to study. If you're born in a dark kalpa, you'll have no opportunity to practice the Dharma, because you'll never even hear of the three jewels. And because you won't even hear of the three jewels, you won't even hear a word of the Dharma, you won't be able to distinguish good from bad because no one will be able to teach you what the difference is. So there are, there are so many things else that we can, people who are born mute or mentally deficient also have no opportunity to practice the Dharma. I think thinking of things as subtleties of degrees, also you can think of all of the psychological or mental obstacles that one could be born with, or that that one could happen that could happen at any point in someone's life. For instance, even something like just having ADHD. You have trouble focusing. That will make it more difficult to practice Dharma. It's not impossible. You still can, you can work on your focus, and it's not impossible. You can still engage in a lot of positive, meritorious activities, but that could potentially make it difficult. There's all sorts of mental or psychological disorders that could make it difficult to understand the Dharma correctly. And other things that can, on the side of how positive things can also be obstacles on the path. If you are tightly bound to your worldly commitments, your wealth, your pleasure, your kids, your relatives, your friends, and you're so preoccupied with those efforts, the play dates you have to organize and the picnics you're going to have with people, and just all of the effort that we put into these ordinary things. If you're so tightly bound to those things, you may not have time to practice the Dharma. That is so common. You've got too many ordinary things going on, too many ordinary commitments, that you can't possibly make the time in your schedule to practice the Dharma. And that also is, we also glorify busyness in this culture. And if you're around people who don't value the Dharma, they will also encourage you to no, you don't need to go to the temple this weekend. Just stay at home and do this or that. And, oh no, but it's so important to see your friends. Go out and live it up. That's important. And they might not value the importance of sitting and meditating. And so they encourage you not to. Some people, some people don't have any faith at all. Whether it's in the Dharma or any other religion, they have no faith at all. And having no faith at all shuts off access to the teachings and, bars you from the path to liberation. And spending time with people who don't have faith, again, can influence your mind in that way as well. So we should be careful of that. We should be very careful of people who take pleasure in harmful or negative actions, and encourage us to do the same. We should be very careful of those. Acting like that will turn you away from the Dharma, and you will no longer have opportunities to engage with it. So, and also, one thing we should also be extremely careful of is associating with Samaya breakers, people who have broken their Samaya commitments to their teacher or to their spiritual brothers and sisters, because they can be a very strong influence on us also, and they can normalize the concept of breaking Samaya, of breaking our spiritual commitments. Our spiritual commitments keep us tethered to this path of truth. And when we break them, we are breaking our own connection to the truth. So spending time with people who encourage us to do that too, oh, it's not that important to do it. Oh, it's fine. I said I was going to, I signed up for this Samaya, but I've never done that practice, and nothing bad's happened to me yet. No lightning bolt has struck me. That's not how karma works. Karma isn't that you you went back on your commitment one day and lightning comes out of the sky and strikes you. Like, if you were lucky, it would happen that way, but it's not. You're probably not going to notice an immediate effect for a while. And then slowly, you're going to discover that you're too busy to make it to the Dharma. You've got your schedule conflicts with when teachings are. Maybe you don't have the money for gas to drive out to the temple. Maybe every time you, I don't know, maybe every time you try to do something meritorious, your like car breaks down or something, you just can never get there. You'll hit these obstacles. You find yourself in social situations where people encourage you to act negatively and engage in non-virtuous actions. Maybe you find you can't get a job except for jobs that encourage you to do non-virtue. Like, for instance, working as an exterminator or being in the military. So you find yourself in situations where it becomes more and more difficult to create merit, to pursue the path of truth, because you're eroding your opportunity by continuing to engage in negative actions. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. To leave you with just an image in your head. I think we often, when we find ourselves in encountering the Dharma in this life, we have this precious human life, we have this rare opportunity to practice the Dharma. And it's like we have a gold coin. And we think that we look at this coin and we say, it's gold, it's shiny. It looks really good, looks solid, looks like a piece of gold. And we assume that it's gold all the way through. We assume we have more merit than we do. We think that because we've gotten this opportunity this one time, that we will continue to have this opportunity. That because I have an opportunity to take a prayer shift today, I'll have the same opportunity to take a prayer shift tomorrow. Because I have the opportunity today to pray, I'll have the same opportunity to pray tomorrow. And we don't realize that a single car accident could take that opportunity away from us. You could, even if it doesn't kill you, you could suffer brain damage and no longer have the ability to practice. It can be gone like that. So the coin we have, for all we know, could be a chocolate coin, only gold on the outside. We actually don't know how deep that gold goes. We don't know whether what we have is, just painted gold. We managed to we had enough merit to get some gold flakes, or do we actually have enough merit to get a gold coin? We don't know. We don't have the wisdom to be able to see how much merit we have in our lives and how long it will last. So until we wind up at the end of that merit, having used it all up, and then we see our supports for spiritual practice fall away, and we've lost our opportunity. So please use your opportunity to practice in this life. If you have found the Dharma now in this life, please take every opportunity you can to practice it, because you never know how long it will last. And pay attention to the habits within your own mind and the habits of those who you spend your time with, and see how those you spend your time with, see how they affect your own mind and your own habits. Just pay attention to that. Yeah. So that's it for today. Let's say the dedication prayer. By this effort, may all sentient beings be free of suffering. May their minds be filled with the nectar of virtue. In this way, may all causes resulting in suffering be extinguished, and only the light of compassion shine throughout all realms.